In the 1990s, world-famous and renowned horror author Stephen King wrote a horror movie about incestuous werecat vampires. That movie was Sleepwalkers, a totally bizarre and twisted monster movie that happens to be written by arguably the most famous mind in horror. So is it gloriously bad, or is it an underrated cult classic? Well, let's find out. Greetings all you movie junkies and entertainment lovers, and welcome to another review. Today we're going to be talking about Stephen King's Sleepwalkers. The film focuses on two shape-shifting energy vampires that are said to be the last of their kind, who are posing as a mother and son duo named Mary and Charles Brady, who decide to settle in a small town where they can secretly feed off the life force of young female virgins. And soon Charles, played by Brian Krause, sets his sights on Tanya Robertson, played by Machen Amick, a sweet studious teen that Charles is hoping to harvest her life force from. But after unsuccessfully cornering her in a nearby cemetery, Tanya is able to get away, and with the Brady's secret potentially being compromised, they stop at nothing to try and drain Tanya's life force, with the climax being pure 90s schlock, as an enraged horde of local cats turn on the Bradys, literally scratching the monsters into flame, because apparently cats are basically like the kryptonite for sleepwalkers. It's exactly the over-the-top, bloody creature feature premise you'd expect from King's only screenplay that's not based on one of his novels. Brian Krause and Alice Krige bring a great intensity to the screen, as Krause is able to swing between an earnest teen heartthrob and then into a hammy one-liner monster. Alice Krige, by contrast, treats the material as a Shakespearean tragedy. Her portrayal of a mother in lusty panic is weirdly operatic and mesmerizing. And Machen Amick is also good as our plucky heroine, Tanya, coming off as a sweet all-American girl that anybody could love. And horror fans will get a kick out of spotting all the fun cameos, as apparently director Mick Garris was able to, quote, call in some favors, packing the film with famous genre faces. There's a blink and you'll miss it appearance by Mark Hamill as a sheriff in the beginning who's investigating the dead cats, plus Stephen King himself strutting around as a cemetery caretaker, who bumps into Clive Barker and then Toby Hooper, in addition to Joe Dante and John Landis popping up as lab technicians. These fun cameos might not make the film an instant classic, but certainly add to the film's overall campy charm. And despite very negative reviews from critics, Sleepwalkers proved to be popular among horror fans and Stephen King enthusiasts as it debuted at number 1. On a modest $15 million budget, it was able to double its money, grossing over $30 million domestically. And director Mick Garris, known for directing the original Stand miniseries and the Easter horror classic Critters 2, moves the film along at a brisk pace, with the film wasting no time as bodies start piling up early. Garris later said that he, quote, understood the style of King's screenplay and what kind of tone he was going for, and enjoyed making a creature feature that very intentionally goes campy, whilst also having a very sickening vibe, making it stand out among not just King's other work, but pretty much every other horror movie of the time, and practically any other time for that matter. Critics, however, heavily criticized King's screenplay for jumping from one gory set piece to the next, which usually isn't King's forte. One critic called Sleepwalkers, quote, overblown and underdeveloped, with characters so cartoonish that it's impossible to feel sympathy. In short, don't expect the same kind of nuanced terror of Pet Sematary or Misery. Here, it's more like Stephen King meets the X-Files Monster of the Week type episode, a film that's very intentionally low on depth, but high on frills. In other words, it's best to judge it as the campy creature feature that it's intended to be. The cover art for Sleepwalkers is a lurid poster that hints at the movie's campy tone and feline monsters right away, with the special effects living up to that low-budget vibe. The Sleepwalkers' monstrous werecat forms were created with practical suits, resulting in some cheesy-looking creature designs that director Mick Garris was apparently never quite happy with, which may have also led to a slight change in the original ending. But Sleepwalkers actually did help to pioneer some early CGI morphing effects, when Charles shifts into werecat form during a high-speed car chase. While not the first time it had been done, it was a pretty notable step for both the horror genre and movies in general. but unfortunately the digital morphing is pretty dated by today's standards, although for many viewers it's just something that adds to part of the film's charm. Sleepwalkers overall occupies a very odd corner of King's work. It's famously not based on any novel or story that King had previously wrote, an aspect that gives it a novelty status among King's other films. It's pure King creativity unfiltered by book expectations. However, it's also one of the least well-known King movies. But among cult King aficionados, Sleepwalkers stands out precisely because it's different. In the end, Sleepwalkers is pretty much as campy and silly as people make it out to be, but that's also exactly the reason why it's memorable and oddly enjoyable to certain audiences. Its legacy, if anything, is that it's unabashedly faithful to its own strangeness. If you're a Stephen King completist or just a fan of offbeat horror, it might just earn your attention. It's not misunderstood so much as it's just deliberately bonkers. And in a way, being underrated is exactly the point. Sleepwalkers never fit the typical King mold, and it knows it. A twisted story that popped into Stephen King's head that, for better or worse, came to fruition for our viewing pleasure. Thanks for watching this review. Be sure to subscribe for more videos. Until next time, be sure to consume as much entertainment as humanly possible, and I'll see you in the next video.